Dme Project presentation by Jennifer Atkins. Description of organization. So my practicum actually took place at my current employer, which is Durable Medical Equipment, or DME for short, that specializes in orthopedic braces. This is a company that I've worked with for the past 7 years. Needs assessment. This project actually grew from a discussion that I had with my preceptor. I believe it was on day 1 of our practicum, while we were discussing the different requirements that would be needed from both of us in order to actually complete the practicum and receive a passing score. We decided that we would utilize patients' feedback from the surveys as well as unsolicited feedback to see if change is needed for our Stockenville locations. Project topic. So this project is meant to change the way that Stockenville Health account is monitored and reported by allowing clear views of patient complaints to be root caused back to the source. It helps to see how compliance, internal and external resources, leadership with various teams, policy writing, and monitoring along with patient satisfaction come together to help drive the business. Project goals. The biggest goal for this project was to improve patient satisfaction as well as finding root causes of complaints to see if they can be fixed and, if possible, if retraining is needed in certain areas. Another goal is to prove the overall relationships between the involved stakeholders. So this slide, as well as the next slide, are examples of the data that was mined during this project. This data helps break down the specific areas that we are looking for to help drive the change. Those areas are: was the product delivered in a timely manner? Was instructions given to the patient? And were the instructions understandable? Could the patient understand how to actually use the product as prescribed? Okay, so this is basically the same data. This is actually from the second quarter. The first slide was from the first quarter. This one is basically the same data. However, this is broken down by the different regions within the company. Barriers. So while some of the barriers that we encountered, we were able to find a workaround for, the biggest barrier was hospitals and urgent care centers. This one we still have not found a workaround for because due to the hospitals and urgent care centers are typically larger than the typical orthopedic clinic or even, family practice settings. They are harder to train because they are such high, fast-paced environments, as well as they typically have a higher turnover rate than the typical clinic does. Implementation. So due to compliance, I'm unable to participate in the implementation process. So this has officially been passed off to my preceptor. Her and her team will take things from this point forward. She will see if she needs to travel to specific patient service centers within each region to meet with the sales reps to see if retraining is needed, and if retraining is needed, which specific areas are they needing training in. Project outcome. So ideally, the biggest outcome that we could hope for is that there's no more patient complaints. So we know that's likely not going to be the issue. So the biggest outcome that we could hope for is that there is improvement within each account or region so that we can help these accounts start to utilize the resources available to them. If they need different brace options stocked within their clinics, do they need extra sizes? Are they aware that they should be letting the patients know that Breg is actually a third-party biller in these cases, and as well as in certain circumstances, making sure that complete paperwork is turned in. That way, whenever we do get the paperwork in, we can bill things within a timely manner. And if there's any circumstances where the patient did not receive the brace, that paperwork is removed so that we don't mistakenly bill something that the patient actually did not receive. Received by stakeholders. So I have not had a lot of interaction with most of our stakeholders. The ones that I have been in contact with are actually very receptive to the idea. They are also providing honest feedback and giving suggestions where needed. One of the biggest suggestions that we did utilize was making sure that the data bind represents complaints per million. The reasoning behind this is, for example, in the Q1 data that we had, I believe it was about 150 patients surveys were returned to us out of like a possible 10,000, I believe it was. So if there are, say, like 8 patients stating that their brace was too small or too big in some cases, um, only 8, someone is going to look at that and say, well, that's not that big of a deal. So if we have the data reflect complaints per million, it can help reflect the patients that actually aren't responding, and it shows the true need for the change and the reasoning behind it. Project sustainability. So the implementation of this project is not a one-time deal. Hopefully, if all goes according to plan, this will be a permanent part of the company. While it will take the better part of 6 to 12 months to find out if the project was successful or not, we will continue to send out patient surveys to, continue monitoring where needed. So the next steps will be handled by my preceptor and her team. I believe the first step would be audits of the different accounts, and we will also continue to monitor the unsolicited patient feedback as well as sending out the patient surveys so that we can hopefully continue to get honest feedback from our patients. Project handoff. As stated earlier, due to compliance, this project has already officially been handed off to my preceptor and her team. Professional goals. So I did have a lot of goals set for the start of my practicum. I also had very high hopes, and I was not disappointed. I was able to learn a lot from my preceptor. The biggest professional goal that I personally had was to boost patient satisfaction because patient advocacy is a huge passion of mine. Leadership skills. These listed are just a few of the leadership skills that I went into this hoping that I could learn, and I was not disappointed. I did learn a lot from my preceptor, things that I'm able to utilize not only in my current setting, but possibly going forward with my career within the company. What did I learn? As I just stated, I learned a lot from my preceptor. The data that we collected, um, one of the biggest takeaways from this is while it can be overwhelming and it does seem like it's a bunch of nothing. Whenever you actually sit down and break down the data, you find out that nothing is truly meaningless. All of this data can help drive change in some way or another within the company, so everything does have value. And these are my references. Thank you so much.